Hey everyone, I'm Jaden.
And I'm Noah.
We are the Super Gamer Bros, and this is the Super Gamer Bros podcast. We're just a couple of brothers who love playing games and love talking about games, so that's what we do. And today, Noah, I'm really excited about this one. We are talking about Assassin's Creed 3.
Yes, Assassin's Creed 3 for the second time. We're starting it again. Um,
Yeah, Noah didn't hit record, and
that's right.
we,
That's my
I'll
bad.
say the one thing I'll give, thank God we got maybe 10 minutes in instead of 40
Right.
minutes in
I
before
know. I
realizing it.
know. That's why I was like, oh, I have to say something now before it's way too late. Anyway, Assassin's Creed 3, I said before was my most anticipated Assassin's Creed after its announcement, specifically due to the fact that it was placed in the American Revolution. I just wanted a game in the American Revolution forever, and I, I even after playing it, I thought this is the perfect American Revolution game.
Yeah, that's I mean I have to agree with you I think on that. It's very awesome. We are both, history buffs. Love our history. The American Revolution also obviously a very important historical moment for us as Americans. If you're listening to this outside of America, I'm sure you really don't care, and that's fine, but for us it's kind of a big deal. And it's just a very fascinating part of history to me in general. So it was cool to have this game, set in that time frame. Also, as mentioned, as I had mentioned previously when Noah didn't hit record, we talked about Assassin's Creed, the Ezio collection, the Ezio trilogy, in episode 10 of our podcast. And now, 39 episodes later, we are talking about Assassin's Creed 3 finally, because I literally finished it for the first time about 2 days ago. Um,
Always late to the party.
Always late to the party, I
But
am,
you
man.
skipped ahead and played Black Flag, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, no, I played Black Flag, Rogue, and Unity all before playing Assassin's Creed 3. I guess to get in the story of that, we because actually didn't talk about that last time is when we got the game, we pre-ordered it, we got the season pass, we were all for it. And then basically you were playing through it and I was like, "Oh, I'll let Noah finish it before I start playing it." Just because like I didn't want to have to like take turns on it or anything like that. I was like, I just want to play it. And I ended up like walking in on you playing it one day and you were pretty far in the story. I would say maybe like sequence 9 or 10. And you were just playing it and I just sat down and watched it. And then later I watched it and you play again. I sat down and watched it. So I got like the end of the story. Like I knew like the last section before the end credits of the story I saw watching you play it. And initially I was like, I don't care, I'll play it anyway. But I just didn't. I just didn't want to play it. I didn't care. And eventually we traded it into GameStop before I ever wanted to play it again. And
Also before the DLC came out, which was a
that
bummer.
is, yeah, that is correct. And years later, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for us being able to talk, if it wasn't for us having this podcast, and it being a game that I knew we could talk about, I probably like would not have played it, just because I just never felt a huge drive to. But I mean, I'm glad I did. It was really fun. I'm glad we could talk about it. But yeah, that's Assassin's Creed 3. Noah, you got anything to add?
Nope.
So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it with the setting. So Assassin's Creed 3 takes place during two periods of American history, 1754 to 1755, which is the beginning of the French and Indian War, a very important war in the history of colonial America. Very much I would say it is very pivotal. It is a very like sowed the seeds for what would like feelings amongst colonials that would eventually lead to the American Revolution, which is what the second part of this game focuses on in like 1770 to 1783.
Yep.
Yep. Also, we did talk about this in length the first time, but now that we're actually recording, both of us feel uh, very well done by Ubisoft of their portrayal of the American Revolution and how realistic it is. Specifically regarding Connor, the main character, who is a half Native American, and he, grew up in his tribe, and he is very much an outsider in this conflict. So the game does a great job of not just being kind of pro-America propaganda here. It actually is a legitimate portrayal that shows you the bad side of the colonials. Like they weren't in the end, especially with treatment of the natives and Connor's people, they weren't better than the British. They were just different. As Connor himself kind of grew to learn, he wasn't really picking the good side versus the bad side. It was really like he wanted the Americans because he felt the Americans would treat his people better. And at the end of the game, unfortunately, he learns that that was not true.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but I agree that it's great that they were historically accurate.
Yeah. And with their portrayal of several famous American historical figures such as George Washington and Sam Adams, two of the founding fathers who were seen as, very important figures. They weren't shown as these altruistic people who were leading the revolution and like saviors amongst the people. They were just men, you know, with their problems that they were just trying to solve. Yeah, Washington himself, I feel like he was very like I wouldn't say portrayed negatively, but he certainly like at the beginning of the war, he was he lost a lot. He had issues with just the warfare in general. He took a lot of losses at the beginning of the war, and they don't shy away from that. They show him having doubts, him not having confidence in his ability to lead the troops. And I very much like respect that. And even like in the end, he is not a good guy in this game. He is like him and Connor do not end the game on good terms. I think that's really cool.
It is really cool.
Anyway, so we'll go ahead and talk about the map now. So the map harks back to Assassin's Creed 2 vibes with several smallish areas to explore instead of one larger area. And I'm pretty sure Assassin's Creed 3 was the last game to actually do this, where in Assassin's Creed 2, you had several small cities in Italy, Florence, Venice, and you would kind of fast travel between those different cities, and the maps themselves, they were there. And then say in Revelations and Brotherhood, each one was in one large city. Like the maps were larger than all the maps combined in Assassin's Creed 2, but it was one large map. Rome in Brotherhood and Constantinople in Revelations. Assassin's Creed 3 kind of returns to that Assassin's Creed 2 thing where you have the frontier, which is a large forest area, because obviously most of America at this point is untamed and wild. And then you have the cities of Boston and New York. I do say that they are small-ish because the frontier map, which is the largest map in the game, is larger than the entire map of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, 1.5 times as large. So calling them smaller, like separated smaller areas, is kind of misleading because they are still very big compared to previous Assassin's Creed games. But that is kind of just the style of map versus one large open world game that they do have done more often. No.
Uh, yeah. Oh, I forgot I actually said something about the maps last time. Right. I was gonna say that all of these maps are very aesthetically pleasing. Boston and New York are designed to be unique in their feeling. While both still have like large buildings, large streets, a lot of people, the city vibes. Um, they still feel different. I actually preferred Boston. The frontier this is the first time that a wilderness area has appeared for exploration purposes in an Assassin's Creed game, and also the first time that hunting was implemented as a crafting and currency system. This is also the first time you can parkour on trees. So, like most trees are climbable, and they create very well-designed paths that look natural with branches and fallen over trees and such. And yeah, that allows for the best parkour in any Assassin's Creed game at the point of the release.
Yeah, you're completely right there. I also, I guess in adding to the cities, I do like also they're historically accurate. For example, in New York, there are a lot of burned down buildings because there had been a fire that ravaged New York months or years before Connor gains access to that area. I think Connor technically goes there in like 17, maybe 80, maybe 79 or 78. There are just a lot of burned down buildings and people like suffering because of that fire that was an actual thing that happened, which is
That's
again,
really
it's a
nice
really
attention to detail.
absolutely say what you want about Ubisoft, when they make their history games they put they put 110% in making them as historically accurate as possible. Anyway, so the home base area of the game is the Davenport homestead. It's another kind of foresty area like the frontier that also kind of grows into this small village. We'll talk about that a bit later. And like in previous games in the series, the story also includes segments set during the modern day in 2012, which again follows Desmond Miles and his efforts to save humanity from an impending disaster. These segments have been expanded significantly compared to the game's predecessors and now involve actual missions that the player must complete to advance the narrative. Locations visited during the modern day segments include a skyscraper in Manhattan, New York, a stadium in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Abstergo's facility in Rome, Italy. As we had
Yeah.
said in our first time through this, the modern day parts are the worst part of the Assassin's Creed games. I personally think they're kind of necessary, I guess, to show the kind of flowing through time aspect of like the Assassins and Templars and all the linkage through time and stuff. But they're the worst parts of every Assassin's Creed game. And while in some games I do enjoy the modern day parts for different reasons, I guess I consider them a necessary evil at this point.
I think it should be removed altogether.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't complain if it was, especially post Assassin's Creed 3, and we'll kind of touch on that a bit later. Anyway, we're going to get into the story. After the events of the previous game, Desmond, William, Rebecca, and Sean find the Grand Temple of First Civilization in a cave in New York and access it using their Apple of Eden. As Juno begins to communicate with Desmond, he enters the Animus to deal with his dissociative fugue state, where Juno's influence causes him to experience the memories of his ancestor, Haytham Kenway. In 1754, Haytham assassinates a patron at the Royal Opera House to steal a piece of Eden in his possession. Instructed by his order, later revealed as the Templars, to find the temple they believe it opens, Haytham travels to the American colonies and recruits several allies to aid his expedition. After they free a group of Mohawk slaves, one of them, Canetio, enlists Haytham's help in killing Edward Braddock before taking him to the Grand Temple. Haytham is unable to access it and assumes the key is ineffective.
Haytham Kenway will always be the first playable Templar, and that blew my mind.
That he was a Templar?
Yeah, because the whole
Oh,
time you think he's an assassin.
I mean, yeah, again, not having that, I had that spoiled, so I can't really say it was shocking to me when I saw it happen. Deducing the key is meant for the temple's inner chamber. Desmond relives the memories of Raten Hoketon, Haytham and Kanetio's son, to find it. In 1760, Kanehitio dies during an attack on their village, which Raten Hoketon assumes was ordered by the Templar Charles Lee. In 1769, the village elder informs Raten Hoketon that it is their tribe's duty to prevent the temple's discovery, and gives him a sphere which allows Juno to communicate with him. Juno leads Raten Haketon to a retired assassin, Achilles Davenport, whose brotherhood collapsed years ago, and he reluctantly agrees to train Connor. At Achilles' suggestion, Raten Haketon renames himself Connor to move freely throughout the colonies. Over the following years, Connor is drawn into the American Revolution and the Revolutionary War as he attempts to protect his people's land and keep the revolution free of the Templars' influence. After assassinating most of Haytham's lieutenants, Connor meets his father and the two work together to eliminate a rogue Templar. Later, Haytham discovers George Washington's plan to displace indigenous populations suspected of supporting the Loyalists, including Connor's tribe. Haytham also reveals that Washington ordered the attack that killed Canetio, causing Connor to angrily break ties with both of them. Returning to his village, he learns Lee recruited Mohawk warriors to turn back the Patriots sent to eradicate them. Connor neutralizes the warriors to avoid conflict.
Nice move, Washington.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he wasn't the best. In the present, Desmond retrieves batteries to activate the temple while being hunted by the Templar Daniel Cross. After William is captured by Abstergo while trying to recover the final battery, Desmond rescues him, killing Cross and Warren Vidic in the process. Meanwhile, in the past, Connor becomes conflicted about eliminating the Templars and hopes to work with Haytham towards peace and freedom. However, Haytham remains convinced of the necessity to control the nation by replacing Washington with Lee. Lee is disgraced by Washington for attempting to sabotage the outcome of the Battle of Monmouth and takes refuge in Fort George. Connor infiltrates the fort but finds Haytham instead and is forced to kill him. Connor eventually assassinates Lee, retrieving the key given to him by Haytham. Returning to his village, Connor finds it abandoned in the sphere left behind. Instructed by Juno to conceal the key, Connor buries it in the grave of Achilles' son, Connor Davenport. Desmond retrieves the key and accesses the Templars' inner chambers, where Juno reveals that he can save the world at the cost of his own life. Minerva appears opposing the plan as it will free Juno, who was sealed in the temple to prevent her from conquering humanity. Juno explains that if the solar flare occurs, Desmond will become a messiah-like figure to other survivors and will be revered as a god after his death, but will have his legacy manipulated to control future generations. Desmond chooses to sacrifice himself to save humanity and give them the opportunity to fight Juno. An epilogue set in 1783 details the end of Connor's journey. Despite eliminating the colonial Templars and helping the Americans achieve independence, Connor feels that he failed his people, who are still being oppressed. Their former land is being sold to colonists to settle the US government's war debts, and the slave trade is still active. Also, little side thing here
So
in the
just bad endings all around.
yeah. Also, in the present, a voiceover directs the player to locate several pivot points across the virtual representation of the colonial America. Once collected, the voiceover informs them that they have connected to the cloud. We will talk in slight detail about that little section of the game later. And that's the story.
And it's pretty good.
I'll be honest. This is probably one of my least favorite Assassin's Creed games in terms of story.
I like it. I like it
Like,
because it's historically accurate. It
yes,
doesn't make for good endings for anybody, no. But you still see a lot happen in this story. They have a
I
Templar at the
agree.
beginning. They have a thing between Connor and his father. There's Connor and the Revolution. There's the Native Americans and their relationship with Britain also.
Uh huh.
And then there's Connor's legacy as an assassin as he's taught by Achilles. That's another plot line.
Yeah.
I think it does tie a lot of threads together pretty well, but
I think
when using the traditional Assassin's Creed form of cutscene tailing mission, stealing mission, assassin mission, it's kind of repetitive.
my thing is one, it sucks. I get it. It had to happen, but I really do hate that, Connor does not have a happy ending. Obviously you don't see kind of the rest of his life after the war, but Connor doesn't win anything. Like he kind of goes mad and kind of burns a lot of bridges in his desperate hunt for Lee, like kind of his obsession with killing all of the Templars in America. Like he burns his bridges with his tribe. He has to kill his childhood best friend because he's trying to kill him because of that was Charles Lee that did that. And he basically becomes like an enemy to his own tribe, and then at the end they leave. And as far as I can tell, Connor does not try to track them down. I think he just kind of accepts that because their land had been sold, yeah, to pay off war debts. And he really just does not have a happy ending, unfortunately. And also, I have to be honest, the whole Desmond dying thing is stupid. I hate it, and it to me just kind of further makes the future sections of future Assassin's Creed games even more annoying because you're not even playing as Desmond; he's dead.
Yeah, it's awful, and it was very confusing. Like, it did sense to me.
Also, I really have to complain. The whole thing, he killed himself, which set Juno free to then try to take over the world, I guess. Noah, you have played more Assassin's Creed games than I have. I have not played any past Unity.
Yeah,
Does
nothing
Juno
comes
ever
up
come
of
back?
that,
Yeah,
no.
nothing, like, by Unity, nothing ever came of that. Where is she? Yeah, so that's even more annoying. Like, that was supposedly a big thing, but it's like, she hasn't appeared since. Like, you're still playing every time as Desmond's ancestors. It's always, like, so why?
Are you? I don't think that part's true.
As Edward, you are obviously. By the time like you get to the new age Assassin's Creed games, I don't think you are. But I think like Edward and Arno maybe were.
We'd have to double check about Arno, but
We'd
I
have
gotta
no, we
close
would,
this
we would.
session anyway. You want me to talk about gameplay?
Yeah. Anyway, that's the story, everybody. Noah, why don't you get us into the gameplay?
Alrighty, so Assassin's Creed 3 is an action-adventure stealth game set in an open-world environment and played from a third-person perspective. You've got your AC parkour system in which you free run throughout the open-world environment and basically climb shit to get around. You can also ride on horseback if you want. Free running has been simplified to allow more fluid parkour in the cities and the wilderness, such as climbing on trees, mountains, cliffs, anything like that.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
sorry, you can go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say previous Assassin's Creed games really stuck to cities and certain structures that you could climb instead of making mostly everything climbable. I'm glad that that's something they changed in the later games.
Yeah, also I know the big thing is in the original Assassin's Creed and one, and I'm pretty sure the entire Ezio collection, you had to hold R2 to like kind of jog, and then you had to hold X to run on top of that, which is just weird. And this got rid of that. This R2 just runs and X jumps. And that's it.
It's so much better.
Yeah. And it is more fluid, as you had said again previously, kind of like being able to go on paths through the trees. It's very easy to find and follow along with. Very natural looking, and it is probably the fastest way to travel.
Yes, well done. Classic combat returns as well with a few new tweaks and abilities to make you even more deadly. Connor can dual wield weapons, the first time that's happened in Assassin's Creed, and take down multiple opponents at once, and players no longer need to manage the lock-on mechanic. Aiding this, Connor has access to a wide range of weapons, which include muskets, swords, pistols, and native weapons such as the Tomahawk and bow and arrow, and then more assassin weapons such as the rope dart, which is a new inclusion to this game, and I think it did not appear in any other game as far as I'm aware.
I am
And
like
then
90% sure it's
maybe
in
Liberation.
AC4. I think it's in Black Flag.
Okay. And then, of course, the assassin's signature hidden blades. Additionally, as guns are now much more widely used and available, muskets are the most common enemy weapon. And enemies can line up in firing lines in an attempt to take you down. And this allows you to use a move to grab a human shield from another enemy. Medicine is no longer used as you heal automatically. For the most part, the combat is the same. It's the counter kill system in open combat. The inclusion of the muskets makes it slightly difficult when you're in the middle of a heated battle and people are taking shots at you. It definitely felt different enough to be its own unique Assassin's Creed, and I really have the most fun when I'm in combat in this game.
Yeah, I do like it's so funny because there are so many things in that they added in Assassin's Creed 3 that I didn't even think about in terms of them adding. For example, and I guess really taking away, they got rid of the lock-on mechanic where you like locked onto a person, you can only attack that person. You can just in AC3 onward, you just point the stick in the direction you want to attack and press square and he attacks the person in that direction. Very cool and definitely makes the combat I feel like a lot more fluid. And as well, I completely forgot that in older Assassin's Creed games, you didn't heal. You had to use medicine to get health back, but they got rid of that in AC3, and now you just heal automatically. Very awesome
Yeah, it's a
addition.
mechanic that comes in and out. Stealth is also revamped, allowing players to use natural elements such as tall grass and trees to hide, along with the ability to blend between any two people. Basically, they just lower the number of people you can blend between. But being able to be climbing on trees and be hidden above a troop of redcoats is such a cool feeling.
Hmm.
Especially because an assassin and you're also a native.
And also, that's something that again I had completely forgotten about because it's such a mainstay now. Like I didn't even think about it while playing through Assassin's Creed 3. Was hiding in tall grass was new to this game. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, that's a
And
like just a basic in stealth games now.
yeah. And being able to blend between any two people because in older games, it's kind of like not only was it did it have to be larger groups of people, but they kind of had to be doing something like standing in a group talking or like walking in like this kind of
They were really
awkward
treated
looking
as like
square of
one
people.
AI unit.
Correct. But in this, literally any two people you are hidden, which is very cool. Especially, it helps especially with the amount of people that are in the cities. They are pretty densely populated. I also
Move
did
along.
want to talk about what.
I said move the page along.
Well, I did actually just want to say one more thing about combat. One thing that they also added in here that I love is the double counter kills. When two enemies attack you at once, you press the counter button, and a small cutscene plays out. Very theatrical, where Connor kills both enemies at once. Really awesome. I mean, that is honestly probably my favorite addition to this game. Is that? Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
It is cool. There is this one animation where he throws a tomahawk at one of the people he's fighting.
Yeah, I mean, he uses like their weapons against them. Like there's some where he'll literally have a guy shoot another guy, and then whatever. It's awesome. Now we get into the additional gameplay mechanics. Noah, you had actually mentioned this earlier, but weather. Assassin's Creed 3 features new weather simulations such as snow, fog, and rain. The seasons can also change, basically, like you're looking at summer and winter, which not only affect visuals but also gameplay, as the player will run slower in deep snow, and snowfall can reduce visibility for the player and enemies, aiding stealth. The same applies with fog. Yeah, it's cool. I will admit to finding winter and deep snow very annoying when you're traveling through the frontier, but it is cool having the differences there.
Very aesthetically pleasing.
All right. And again, as you had mentioned earlier, hunting wild animals are found on the frontier and can be hunted for meat or marrow or other kind of resources to be sold. Also, pretty cool. The quality of the kill determines the quality of the resources you get. encouraging the player to hunt silently. You also have use of traps and bait that help with that. So if you use a gun to shoot, say, an elk, that pelt has a bullet hole in it, so it is not worth as much if you use your hidden blade and get kind of a more sneaky kill there, which I think is cool.
Yeah, it's a cool aspect. There's also the Davenport Homestead, which
Yes.
is Connor's adopted home. The site can be visited by people such as carpenters, tailors, etc., suffering from displacement due to the war. And helping and interacting with these NPCs will encourage them to settle in the homestead. And from there on, the player can craft various items and trade with them, and then sell the goods to the cities via caravan. The player can also help them build relationships with each other, which will result in the formation of a small community. I think that's really cool because it's done through side quests and it's completely optional, but it allows for easier trading and the homestead builds up. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. The homestead missions, they unlock these settlers, and then you do missions to kind of level up their abilities so they can craft more stuff, which, in turn, you can trade. I think Assassin's Creed 3 for the home base mechanic is probably by far the best. One, with all the missions, you actually, meet these different people and learn about them. You help them with their problems. Like, you have to help one couple as they, have their baby. You end up like introducing two people that end up getting married, and you act as the father in that wedding as Connor, because the woman does not know where her father is. Like, it's a really like small, cool, tight knit community that I thought was very personable, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. In terms of like the home base using to make money mechanic, I do think it is probably the coolest in terms of like the story-ish and aspect of it.
Agreed.
Anyway, crafting and trading. I'll admit this is something I do not like as much compared to the Ezio collection, and really even like Unity does it. I'm pretty sure Rogue does it, where it's just kind of like you buy a store, and then every 20 minutes you get money from that store. That's it. It is in every Assassin's Creed game, obviously the best way you can make money. So it's kind of something that is necessary if you want to like buy everything. But it is, I think, in Black Flag, the most involved. I think really in 3, it is the most involved of everyone, where it's just very open, where you use the skills of the people on the homestead. You craft a wide variety of items. You craft everything from rings to war weapons to clothes to medicines and alcohol. And you send them off on caravans, both through the frontier, or you can do naval convoys as well. And, they take time, like real world time, to travel there and back, and you make money off of that. I think it's cool and realistic. But again, I think it's a little too involved. Like, I only used it really. I mean, the crafting I used in terms of, because I did complete the main game. I only used convoys really twice. Once because there's a trophy for using them, and a second time because I didn't to be able to buy everything in the game, because you have to do that for completion. You don't make enough money just like getting all the chests, beating the main story, and like say doing all the assassin contracts, because I did all those things. That doesn't get you enough money to buy everything. So you have to do caravans at least like a couple times. Crafting I used a lot because you do have to craft, like there are weapons, like to get all the weapons, you do have to craft a decent amount. And there are inventions, we'll talk a bit about those later, that you have to craft. It's very simple. It's very easy. It took me maybe like all the crafting I did for everything I had to do crafting wise was maybe a total of 15 minutes of gameplay. It's very easy and simple, but it is like, I wish it was just you bought this thing, now every 20 minutes collect your money. I do honestly prefer that system.
Agreed.
Oh, also, land caravans have a chance. The lowest chance it can be is 10% of being attacked, and if they're attacked, you actually have to go and defend them, or the caravan will not succeed, and you don't get your money, and you lose that cargo you were sending. That just makes it more annoying. And as I just said, with sending your assassins on missions, recruitment and liberation missions. So this is a revamped version of the recruitment system introduced in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. as players can enlist citizens to the assassin's cause by completing optional liberation missions. They're kind of like free roam missions that pop up. Very simple, like take you less than a minute typically to complete these free roam missions. Once you complete all of them in a given area, you then unlock a mission where you help a citizen take down a Templar, and then they basically join the Brotherhood. Unlike previous games, you are limited to only 6 Assassin's recruits, but they are each given distinct personalities and backstories and have a much larger skill set, allowing them to start riots, provide a cover escort, set up an ambush, among others. I actually really enjoyed the recruitment system that was implemented in Brotherhood. I think it is implemented well in 3. The only thing that I personally don't care for is like you can summon them in a battle, and as this said, you can have them start riots, provide cover, escort, set up ambush, blah blah blah. I never use those because you really don't have to. And they get XP for doing it, but it's not really worth it when you can send them on missions, which they work kind of similar to like the convoys or I think like the trading with the fleet in Assassin's Creed 4. I think is the best comparison where you send them on missions to liberate the colonies. You pick up to 3 and they have a percent chance of success, and it takes real time, anywhere from 2 to 15 minutes. And then when that's done, assuming they succeed, they get XP, and you can send them on another mission. Yeah, that like I do like that aspect, that even though it's a micromanaging kind of thing, you're not actually doing anything. But overall, I feel like just the assisting in combat portion of it, I think, is just not that useful.
I'm never a fan of recruiting assassins.
Yeah, I get it. Again, like the main reason that you're supposed to do it for the abilities and stuff and combat help, I just don't need. The combat in the game is not difficult in Assassin's Creed. I get newer games maybe, but in Assassin's Creed 3 and in Brotherhood and Revelations, which I think are the only 3 games where you actually use it, it's like you don't need to. Their combat is not hard.
Right.
Underground tunnels. This is something that I did not know existed until I played this game myself. So basically, in New York and Boston, you unlock the underground, where you go down, and appropriately enough, underground tunnels throughout the city that you have to explore to then find doors to unlock them to unlock the fast travel points in the game. Um, I think this is a really cool concept. I just wish it went a bit faster. It kind of like replaces the assassin tombs in Assassin's Creed 2, I feel like, because it's kind of like small puzzle solving aspects to it. But you have to carry a lantern with you because it's too dark. And whenever he's carrying the lantern, his fastest speed is a slow jog. I just wish he traveled faster. It was fine. I wouldn't say I hated the experience of doing it. I just like threw on a like a YouTube video and had that playing in the background while I did it. It takes maybe an hour and to 2 hours to like do each one in Boston and New York. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I am a fan of naval gameplay. Assassin's Creed 3 introduces naval gameplay to the series for the first time. During the main story, Connor is introduced to a decommissioned assassin brig, the Aquila, and is given the opportunity to renovate it and become its captain. Control of the ship relies on environmental factors such as wind direction and speed, local presence of storms, high waves, and rocks. Engagements are by cannon, with broadsides covering both flanks of the ship, swivel guns that can be used to damage smaller ships, and chain shots from the broadsides as well to take down the masts of larger ships and disable them. The Aquila is usable only during the side missions known as privateer missions and naval missions. In order to overcome the challenges provided by these missions, the player may acquire upgrades for the ship's weapons and whole armor. This side aspect of the game basically inspired Assassin's Creed Black Flag because it was
And
so
absolutely,
popular.
absolutely. I think it's awesome. It introduced the naval gameplay, and Assassin's Creed 4 the is probably like the best ship sailing game that exists as of now that I have played. My problem is playing Assassin's Creed 4 first. They improved so much of the ship combat that ship combat in Assassin's Creed 3 is kind of annoying in comparison. Yeah, there are a lot of small things that Assassin's Creed 4 has that Assassin's Creed 3 doesn't, that boy, I really wish it did. But again, I mean, it's fun. It's sailing, it's ship combat. It is fun. It's cool to see how it started and stuff.
Right, so clubs.
No, I lost you.
Yeah, well, I thought you were going to talk about clubs,
Oh, well, you
but
just said
okay.
right
So
so. Well, you
clubs.
said right so, and
So the
like
clubs in the
it seemed
game
like well, so
include.
clubs.
So clubs in the game include the thieves, brawlers, frontiersmen, and hunters. Join them by completing tasks they like and complete several of their tasks to earn their respect. There's three tiers of tasks. Also, the latter three have short mission sets. I like these type of things, joining a group and having like one specific thing, whether it be hunting, fighting, or stealing. That's a fun one. Yeah, I think it's a cool aspect.
Yeah, I did like say in terms of joining them by completing tasks they like. For hunters, you have to like kill and skin an animal and you're automatically in. That's all it takes. For thieves, you have to pickpocket a certain amount of money. The other two I don't remember, it doesn't matter. When I first started this game and you look at those lists of tasks, they're very daunting initially, but admittedly it doesn't take long to do. I actually ended up enjoying this aspect of the game. I thought I would hate it, but I didn't. My only complaint I would say is that there's no purpose for doing them other than completion. You don't unlock anything like cool for completing each set. You unlock like a trophy in the homestead, but that again, it doesn't do anything. And yeah, there's nothing really in terms of game reasons to do them, which always kind of annoys me when you have stuff like that in a game. And the brawlers, frontiersmen, and hunters do have these short missions. Like for hunters, you have to find and hunt specific animals. Frontiersmen, you listen to a guy tell a story about some mystery, and then you have to go kind of solve it. Stuff like a Sasquatch, a sea monster, a UFO. The brawlers, you just have to go around and beat people up, and then, in admittedly one of the more fun parts of the game, you end up taking place in this fighting tournament, and that's pretty cool. And the thieves is nothing; you just steal stuff.
Right, so multiplayer comes back, yay. Along with the other returning modes from previous Assassin's Creed multiplayers, new ones feature a cooperative mode named Wolfpack, in which 1 to 4 players are charged with killing certain NPCs within a time limit, through a sequence of 25 stages, which sounds like a lot. It also features Domination, a team mode where players will have to capture certain areas of the map, protecting them from the opposing team. I did not play much of the online.
Yeah, I put it in here because it exists, but again, Assassin's Creed multiplayer is not something we really took part in that much. Uh, Collectibles. So first you have the peg leg trinkets. These are small items. I mean, really, they're not anything specific that you give to Peg Leg, who is a pirate, in exchange for locations to explore for treasure. Which I realize I didn't put that anywhere, so I'll talk about that now. It's kind of with the naval missions where you find him. He gives you a letter that reveals a location. You go to this location, and then you kind of explore it. Like it's kind of like mostly kind of parkoury puzzles or maybe chasing down some enemies. They're all admit like there's like 5 different locations. They're all pretty unique. I respect that. You explore them to find at one you find a sword. At the other 4 you find pieces of a map which leads you to Captain Kidd's famed Captain Kidd's like treasure that he hid. Which itself is a mission to then find that. They're cool. They're fine. Why did you activate video? Okay.
Because I was trying to unmute. I wanted to say that I did not do any of those missions.
Yeah, they're very much optional.
Yeah, I
Again,
didn't
you
even know
get
they existed.
yeah. You actually find Peg Leg's treasure, not Peg Leg, sorry. Captain Kidd's treasure, which is this it's like a small ring that is it's a like precursor technology that I guess makes it harder for bullets to hit you because it's got like an electromagnetic field that acts as kind of like a shield. That was basically the last thing I did in the game was get that, so I never used it. But
So does that just mean you couldn't get shot?
you could, it just lowered the chances.
Still cool.
Yeah, it was a cool thing, but I was like, oh man, I wish I'd gotten that when I still had game to play.
Yeah, I hate feeling that
Um,
way.
yeah. Um, and then of course you have chests, classic Assassin's Creed thing, chests. They give you money and crafting recipes. Feathers, the goddamn feathers return. Luckily, there's not 100 like there is in Assassin's Creed 2, and they're also I would say they're not annoying. They're only found in the frontier, and again with how easy it is to like climb the trees and travel through the trees, they're not that annoying to get. I feel like they probably existed as an excuse to get people to climb trees and travel through the trees. So I can appreciate them being in the game for that reason.
Exactly.
And then the almanac pages. Ben Franklin, created the Farmer's Almanac. I don't really know what an almanac is, to be honest, but it basically he lost some pages. You have to run through. They're typically on rooftops, and then they blow away in the wind, and you have to chase them. Honestly, that is very annoying. I don't like that. If you don't catch them in time, they blow away, and you got to come back later. And they unlock Ben Franklin's inventions, which are craftable, like where you craft stuff. The inventions don't do anything. Again, it's just something for the sake of completion.
So those are the collectibles.
Those are the collectibles.
Not too bad.
Correct. And also, the remastered version. I played the remastered version, obviously, and there are several things I didn't realize were new to the remastered version that I certainly appreciated playing it. One, players can whistle from anywhere while hidden, while in the original version of the game, it was only from corners. I did not know that. I'm very glad I can whistle from anywhere because I used it a lot. Double assassinations have also been improved, so you don't have to enter high profile mode to do so. Again, very appreciative of that because I did double assassinations a lot. There are certainly things I did in this game that I'm like, oh my god, how are you supposed to do that? That like looking back, I'm like, how are you supposed to do that without being able to like double assassinate or whatever? You can also free aim with ranged weapons now. I didn't know that was a thing you could do. Um,
Yeah, I knew that when I was playing the remaster that in the original you could not free aim.
Yeah, I did not know that. The mini map and the user interface were upgraded with better looking and easier to recognize icons for ease of accessibility. Figuring out where enemies will point next, which again, I guess in the original they were just dots. I didn't know that. And also features colorblind modes. And also the crafting system and economy system were vastly upgraded, as it said on Wikipedia. I again didn't play the original. I only played the remastered, so I have no idea what that means. But the version I played, I thought the crafting system was great. So maybe good thing I didn't play the original. All right. So notable trophies. Fun fact: the online trophies are still obtainable in Assassin's Creed 3 until October 1st, 2022. Yeah, servers are still up for another like 20 days. I guess I think 19 days from when this episode is uploaded. So if you want to get the platinum in the original Assassin's Creed 3, go do it now. The remaster does not have online trophies because it does not have an online mode. Notable trophies. I've got kind of four to mention here. First, head in the cloud, find all pivots, and sync the animus to the cloud. The pivot points mentioned kind of earlier in the end of the story. These aren't in the remastered version, and this trophy is the only one, other than online trophies, in the original that is not in the remaster. So I have no idea what that is. Like, I have absolutely no clue. I did not know that existed until last night. No,
Yeah,
do
I've
you
never
remember?
heard of
Yeah.
that, no.
Yeah, I don't know. Spit roast. Perform a double assassination using a musket. It's cool because what you do is you stab the first guy and then you shoot the second guy through the first guy. It's cool. And obviously called spit roast, Noah, because like, when you're roasting something over a fire, it's got like, yeah, spit roast.
Sure.
Yeah. Also, Hunter Killer, reach sequence 10 in a map on Wolfpack multiplayer mode. That is notable because that's the only multiplayer trophy we have. Of four, it's actually a very easy multiplayer trophy list, I will admit. I also wanted to talk real quick about the achievement called An Extraordinary Man. Complete the Encyclopedia of the Common Man. Oh boy, this is one of the most annoying trophies I've ever. So basically, you have all these people that settle on the homestead. Then what you have to do is 3 times you have to catch them doing 3 different activities, and then go into Eagle Vision. They'll glow gold. You hold L2 on them, and it scans that activity. This is random. They, are just going about their lives, and you have to catch them at a moment that you can scan them. I ended up doing it. It wasn't like the worst trophy I've ever done in the world, but it was super annoying that like it basically at a point because I completed the story and then did all the side stuff. So I did like the homestead missions were some of the last things I did. And it's literally like, okay, I completed this mission. Let me run to all the people that live here and like see if they're doing something I can scan until I got all of them done. It's just annoying.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah. And like, because it's like for example, at night they're all in bed, so you can't scan them. So if you fast travel and it's night when you get to like where they are, oh well, you gotta leave and come back later. Sometimes they're just in their house or they're just walking around. It, it just sucked. I hated it. I get like in the end, it wasn't that bad for me. Like but it probably added like 2 hours to my playtime that I did not appreciate having to run back and forth between all these houses in the hopes of catching someone doing something that I could scan. And you can't scan the same activity twice. like it'll literally tell you you've already scanned that activity, it doesn't count, which I mean there's like so many times where because I would just do it out of desperation. Oh, they're doing something, let me scan them and hope it works. And even though I knew it wouldn't, there were a lot of times I did shit like that. It was annoying, man. Annoying trophy. Also, and then I guess kind of notable, in the remastered version, the Tyranny of King Washington DLC trophies are required for the platinum. That's
I
kind of
didn't know
annoying.
that.
Yeah, it's real annoying. It adds like an extra 15 hours to the platinum completion time. I did start it yesterday, but yeah, I'm just annoyed about it because I 100% completed the main game, and yeah, I still don't have the platinum because I have to do all those. Ugh, oh well. We'll get through our questions. Favorite moments, Noah?
My favorite moments are just the whole game being an assassin fighting the redcoats during the Revolutionary War.
I'll agree with you. I think that's cool. My favorite are the moments with Connor and Hatham. When I watched you play through the game, I watched Hatham initially, and later I watched, and then like I watched you at the end, like kind of around the time I think I saw you kill him, and I didn't see any interactions between them. So I felt like, man, for being his dad, there's not really anything there about that. But then you actually do several missions with him and his dad working together and talking about stuff, and I actually appreciated that. I thought those were really cool moments.
Yeah, great scenes.
Favorite target, Noah?
Uh, there's a mission where you go after Benedict Arnold.
You don't kill him, but sure, I'll allow
No, but
that.
it's fun.
Yeah. My favorite would either be Hatham or Pitcairn. Pitcairn you kill during the Battle of Bunker Hill. I think that's cool. And Hatham, again, it's having actually the full experience of the story. It's a pretty emotional fight and it's a pretty emotional moment. I do think it's kind of silly how you kill him because he's like they're fighting and they're both kind of hurt, and Hatham is choking Connor on the ground, despite the fact that he has hidden blades. And then Connor literally just reaches up and stabs him with his hidden blade. And I'm just like, Hatham's a former assassin. Did he not think about that? You know, I just think that's kind of like a oversight on his part that I feel
Yeah, it
like
was stupid.
Hatham wouldn't have made. Miscellaneous things, Noah?
Muskets.
Okay, yeah, muskets are cool. What we didn't like about the game, Noah?
Um, yeah, I guess my chief complaint is going to be one of yours, which is the fact that you play as Hatham too long.
Yeah, I kind of don't like all the advertisement of the game is about Connor and about the American Revolution. And so that's very much what I mean, I imagine everyone went into this game with. And the fact that you play as Hatham, was purposefully hidden because they wanted it to be a twist. But it was like playing as him, even knowing he's already a Templar and stuff. None of the ads show him and they show Connor, so I'm like just waiting to play as Connor. But you literally play the first three sequences as Hatham, which the game has 12 sequences. So hypothetically, literally a quarter of the game you were playing as Hatham, and I just thought that was way too long. And I think I'll kind of couple in with that. Just I feel like the story itself is kind of poorly paced. Like you don't actually like the first battles of the Revolutionary War, as it said, Lexington and Concord happens in sequence 7, mission 2. So you are again over halfway through the game at that point before the Revolutionary War actually starts, and I just thought that was insane. I was just waiting for it to start and waiting for it to start. Noah.
Yeah, the rest of your complaints.
Oh yeah, I just thought you would have something to say. Climbing still aged poorly. Any Assassin's Creed game pre-Unity, the climbing is can be very wonky with detection and is not great. And climbing down after you've climbed up something is annoying.
It's
Or like
impossible.
yeah, or like you'll get stuck trying to climb the same unclimbable surface over and over again because like I'm holding R2 and trying to run to this direction and he starts climbing this like building or whatever. It's annoying. It's my biggest gripe with old Assassin's Creed games. And last, 100%ing this game. One of the worst experiences I think of 100%ing a game I've ever had. Mainly because in Assassin's Creed, the missions have optional objectives that you have to do. Of all the Assassin's Creed games I've completed, by far the worst. There are so many that are super, super annoying. And then, like, in most Assassin's Creed games, you don't have to 100% the game. You have to 100% the story missions every time, but typically side missions you don't have to, unless I'm just misremembering. In this one, you do, and some of those side missions have absolutely ridiculous completion requirements for optional objectives. The worst one being, I have to specifically mention this one, a privateer contract. So you're in your ship, and they're short missions. Like hypothetically, a privateer contract mission you can beat in less than 7 minutes. It's called the Sea Wolves, and in it you're acting as like the security of this fleet of 8 I think 8 ships. They're smaller ships. When you're attacked by 4 frigate class ships, and I think it's 3 frigate and 1 might even be like a man of war, a larger ship. Those ships, you have to take out 4 enemy ships before they can take out 4, literally just 4 of your small ships you're trying to defend. Those small ships are sailing around everywhere. You can destroy them if they get in your way, and the enemy ships take like 2 to 3 cannon volleys to take them down. And again, kind of going with the ship combat not being as good as Assassin's Creed 4, like if you miss a shot in this, you might as well give up. Sometimes you can get lucky. I think I got lucky beating it. Even when I did it, I was shocked that I managed to actually do it, but it took a long time and I hated every second of it. In Assassin's Creed 4, when you aim your cannons, you have like an arch that shows where the cannonballs are going. In Assassin's Creed 3, it's just like a line that like highlights on the ocean floor. And in this mission, because of like the daylight and the sea you're on, that highlighted area is literally impossible to see. So like I can't even tell where I'm aiming most of the time, which made me miss a lot of shots. I hated that mission. I would rank it top worst missions I've ever played in any video game ever. I hated it. 100%ing it sucks. Moving on.
Beat
Noah,
and delete.
beat and delete. I have beaten it. I don't. It's one of the lesser Assassin's Creeds I feel like in terms of story. If I wanted to go back and play an old style Assassin's Creed game, which is already in itself a rarity because again, mainly like the climbing just is has aged very poorly. I would certainly probably pick a different game over Assassin's Creed 3. And yeah, beat and delete. Now we're on to DLC. Benedict Arnold bonus missions. As you said, Noah, Benedict Arnold bonus missions. He is sort of a target. These are 4 short missions that focus on Benedict Arnold's betrayal of the Patriots. If you have ever heard of Eggs Benedict, they're named after Benedict Arnold, one of the most famous betrayers in the history of the world. Like he
Not
has,
the history of the world.
he has a
Definitely
food named
American
after him.
history. Yeah, all right, maybe.
Yeah, it's also funny, our previous episode, Toy Story 3, where we had this long conversation about console exclusive downloadable content. And that's what this was. The Benedict Arnold bonus missions were initially PS3 exclusive. They were bundled free with PS3 copies of the game only. I think, they were later released as paid DLC for everyone else. I didn't look that up. I'm pretty sure they were. But yeah, another DLC, console exclusive DLC there. I played them because they are in the remastered version. I honestly did not think they would be for a while. They are. They're fine. I don't think they're the best missions of the game. They do allow you to explore the smaller area of West Point, I guess, but there's not really anything interesting to find there, so it's whatever.
Right.
And then the Tyranny of King Washington. Very, I feel like, hyped up, awesome concept, 3-part DLC. We actually bought the season pass. One of our first times buying a season pass, we bought the season pass for Assassin's Creed 3, like $30, so we could play all 3 of these. We traded the game in before the first one even came out, so that didn't really work out for us, but we did buy it. I'm gonna do a short little summary of the initial part of the story because I actually haven't played through it and don't know how it goes, so I didn't want to spoil it for myself by reading the whole plot, and it's pretty long. So, set in 1783, the Tyranny of King Washington follows the main playable character of Assassin's Creed 3, Rotten Hakaton, aka Connor, as he awakens in what appears to be an alternate reality where the events of the main game involving him have never happened. He is tasked to find and defeat a fictionalized version of George Washington who is empowered but mentally corrupted by an otherworldly artifact. After crowning himself king of the newly founded United States of America, Washington began to enslave the population of the American frontier and massacre those who resist his tyranny. Connor gains new mystical abilities over the course of the pack's narrative as he attempts to stop Washington. I have one of the fictional abilities. It allows you to literally hide in plain sight at the cost of slowly draining your health. It's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I think it's...
Yeah, the idea is really cool,
Yeah.
and giving Connor powers, sweet. The first time they had supernatural abilities for the protagonist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. I'm playing through it now. It's fun, and yeah, that's Tyranny of King Washington. If you get Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, you can play through it. Final thoughts, Noah.
I still think Assassin's Creed 3 stands as one of my favorites just because of its setting and the content of the material. I also like the weapons added and the Tyranny of King Washington DLC is great.
Yeah, It is, I would say, not one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games. Honestly, playing through it, I feel like it did not live up to the Revolutionary War hype for me. I wish Connor was a little more involved in that. He's kind of always just a side character. I feel
That is a
like in
complaint
that part of
about
the
the
story.
game that there weren't enough big battles.
I don't necessarily need big battles. I just like I don't know. I feel like just the war should have played a larger part in the game, or I don't know. It's called like the Revolutionary War Assassin's Creed game, and I'm like, yeah, I guess sort of, but it's not really a big. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really walk away thinking like, yeah, Revolutionary War. I was like, yeah, it's there. Because even I mean, Connor like cuts ties with George Washington and the war. Like I think at the end of sequence 9. So again, there's like 3 sequences of the game, maybe two. It might be sequence 10 that he cuts ties, but like at least a sixth of the game where Connor literally is like, I'm done with the revolution. I'm not helping anymore. And it's like, oh, okay. Like I thought he'd maybe be there at the like final battle helping him win or something like that, but no, he was just done. Which again, like made sense for the story. I'm not complaining about it in a story perspective. Just the fact that like it's touted as like being a Revolutionary War game, but it's Connor just by the end just doesn't care. And it's like
Anywho,
yeah, I was just say overall it's like I enjoyed playing it because it's an Assassin's Creed game and Assassin's Creed is fun, but I honestly just don't feel like it stands out compared to other Assassin's Creed games. Anyway,
anywho,
that's Assassin's Creed 3.
now we move on to the indie bit, the bit where we talk about indie games.
Yay!
Today, we're talking about Valiant Hearts: The Great War. This is an indie game that Jade and I have had a long time. I think we got it from the PlayStation Plus free games a couple years ago, maybe
I
many years ago at this
I feel like
point.
it was many. I feel like that might have been one of the first ones we ever got with
Maybe.
PlayStation Plus.
But I tried to play it at some point and got a little bit into it and then just like stopped playing it. But I wanted to play it again for this because I remember thinking it was a cool game the way it was designed. And it is basically a 2D side-scrolling puzzle solver where you play as a group of different people who were in some way involved in World War One. You play as an older man who is drafted by the French. You play as his, I think, son-in-law
Yes.
who is drafted on the German side. He's sent back to Germany and he's forced to fight for them. You also play as a field nurse, which is really cool. I was saying that I can't think of another game where I've played as a field nurse. Um, and then the story is told through cutscenes in between the levels, because during levels the characters don't speak or anything. The art style is very cartoony, and it's taken in a very light tone. The game is fiction. The story is made up, obviously. It's not very long. You can beat it in 6.5 hours, perfect it around 9. Only 4 chapters. Jaden, did you like this game?
I did like this game. I loved the puzzle solving. It was not that hard. I would not call it hard. I think that this is like the perfect like chill game. The puzzle solving was not hard. Like the entire game, I only found myself stuck twice, and I only needed to look up a hint once. But other than that, most of the puzzles are pretty straightforward. I liked the story. I like kind of the voiceover. I also like the art, as you said, very cartoonish. The only thing I didn't like about the art was all the people are blue, and I just am like, why? Like, why make that decision? And also, only one character. You only ever see one character's eyes, which is just a funny thing I noted. And it's a World War One game, more history. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I didn't mention this, but they also have historical fun facts all throughout the game.
Yeah, I think it is an awesome way to kind of show people in an as lighthearted as possible way the horrors of the First World War, and because the game doesn't sugarcoat anything, like despite the cartoony look, it's not like it's like, hey, in this battle, like 270,000 British soldiers died. It was a horrific battle. Now, go solve these puzzles with your
Right, it
cute
talked about
dog.
the horrible effects of chemical warfare
Oh
during
yeah.
World War One.
Hmm.
It also talked about flamethrowers and why they were eventually outlawed at Geneva.
And like, like one thing I didn't know, there was one point where French officers were basically just forcing their soldiers to charge into certain death in this kind of offensive plan, to the
Yep.
point where a lot of soldiers rioted and refused to follow orders because they didn't want to die. And sad ending. But overall, I really enjoyed the game.
What's the next game?
Oh no, you're gonna love this one. The next indie bit game is Thomas Was Alone.
What is that? A walking simulator?
No. Oh,
Okay.
I first heard about Thomas Was Alone several years ago. It's very short. Like, I looked up how long to beat. It said completion time 4 hours, like 100% completion 4 hours.
That is short.
So it's supposed to, but it's like not completion is like 3.5 hours. So it's not like the game is going to be only an hour long because you're not going to try to complete it all the way. Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't want to tell you anything about it because I want to, hear your reactions
Right, my
next
unfettered
episode. But
opinion.
absolutely. But it is. I heard that it's supposedly a really like peaceful, good game. This is like it's been out for years. I thought it wasn't on PlayStation, but it was on PS Pass, so I got it, and I was like, "Oh, that's it. That's what we're doing."
Nice. I've just been looking at PS Pass for games too.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, that's our next indie bit. So don't forget, new episodes every other Monday. Rate and subscribe. Tell us if you like our show or tell us if you don't, and tell us why. Tell your friends and enemies about the podcast. You can follow our Instagram, the Super Gamer Bros, for updates on pretty much everything we do. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, Super Gamer Bros, one word, capital S, capital G, capital B, period at the end, where we upload videos every Friday. Our most recent videos being part 5 of our Mortal Kombat X playthrough and part 5 of our Crash Bandicoot playthrough. Two vastly different games that we're having a bunch of fun with.
In Mortal Kombat.
I said, yeah, wow. So, yeah, we'll see you guys next game.
Bye.